Good afternoon, everybody. So we're here to have our normal Thursday training. Last week, what we did is we had a conversation around doing term insurance as well as LERPs, if you will, on the site. So now what we're going to do is we're going to flip the script and do it on the death benefit focus side. So, what's interesting is a lot of people in the IUL space don't even realize that you can do this, like death benefit focused products. On the internet, it just seems to go over everybody's head. And I say to myself, I'm like, how is this part not, you know, trained on, talked about in general, because it's such a valuable asset and a valuable part of the whole process when you talk about estate planning, when you talk about just really death benefit focus. This is the most cost efficient product and everything in regards to getting you where you need to be. So it's always fun to talk about product sales ideas, but if you don't know how to actually run it, then that's a problem too. So again, last week we did the LERP side. Now the time is here to talk about the death benefit side. So, what I will do is I will show you guys first and foremost. We're going to get into Winflex directly because I just have more carriers on it. But if you were starting out, again, 3Mark using it as our back office, 3Mark has, once you log in, you'll be able to go to quotes, and under quotes, you go to Winflex Web. It does a single sign-on and brings you into your Winflex login. But I am going to use once again my own because of the fact that, like I said, I have more carriers in it. Zoom it out so it's easier for everyone to see. And we're going to go right into illustrations and show you a couple different options here. So let me go to start a new case. And what I'll do is I'll start out with a QOL because it is one of the best death benefit focused products in the industry. Both this one with the living benefits, or if you did American General, you'll see without the living benefits and the Value Plus Protector. But I'm going to use the QOL because for the marginal cost difference, having the living benefits makes a lot more sense. So we're going to open it up here. And anytime we do an illustration, we either look for one of two things. Okay. So let's say, for example's sake, Phil Resch, and I will say I'm 55 right now, preferred non-tobacco, Tennessee. Now let's just do standard. I can't lie. Solve for. Now, again, for everybody who is used to this type of, setup, you'll see here that we have a open format. It says no solve. Now, when we do no solve, that means you are moving all the pieces yourself. You're the architect of the design. But what I would say is that when you do this, it's going to leave a lot up to chance and a lot up to what I would say, faulty numbers. And I say faulty numbers simply because it means you're going to you maybe charge the person more or do things a little inaccurately. So I like to let the software work for me. So what we'll do here is where you see no solve, you have two options. What are you going to solve for? You either have a premium and you're trying to find the face amount, or you have the face amount and you're trying to find the premium. So if you see solve for, it basically sets it straight up for you. So if I want to solve for a premium, it means I know the death benefit. Okay. And it auto defaults to the solve feature. So I have a face amount, $1 million, solve, years to pay premium. I would pay for my entire life if I left it at max. And then we have $1,000 at cash value goal of age 121. What does that mean? I want to find the least amount of premium needed to keep this policy active all the way to age 121 if I pay for my entire life. There's another component to this, which is under the index strategy. So they're saying that based on 100% in the S&P 500, I have a 6.32% rate of return average that I need to hit in order for the premium I'm about to solve for to make sense for this policy to last all the way to age 121. So does that make sense so far?
Yes.
Oh, Bobby, I missed you. So, so here in the scenario, what we have is multiple options here. Carriers will have different options, and what you'll see is you have solve, which again will solve for the least amount of premium. This ESVR ROP solve would be if the client wants to make sure they have the ROP feature, then it'll be available, but you need to hit a certain pricing premium, so to speak. Guaranteed premium, that would be if I want a guarantee up to, let's say, 90 in the 0% column. Some people value that and they want to use that. I just want to confirm I am sharing my screen. Everyone can see it okay, right?
We see the guaranteed 90, the face amount a million.
Okay. Someone was asking if I was sharing my screen. I was like, yes, yes. Jai, can you see it now or no?
No,
No. Let me try this. I'll stop sharing for 1 sec.
yes, it is coming right now.
Thank God. Say, I got a little worried there. Um, So with this premium, the guaranteed premium, for those who are a little fearful of the 0% column, or they're fighting against a whole life person and they want to do something that they know is going to be there no matter what, guaranteed to 90, you can add that feature in. What I find is it does add cost to the product compared to what we would do if we just did the solve, and we can look at the differences, no problem. The other thing here is years to pay premium. If your client wants to pay for only 20 years, you just do year and then 20, and that's pretty much it. If they want to pay to age, let's say 75, which is also 20, then you just put age in and then they stop paying premium, and it would be more than what the max is because you're putting more in, so you don't pay anything after 75. So I'm going to leave it here for now, just as an all pay. We'll do index strategy. I'm going to leave it on the S&P. Disbursements for cash value, we really don't do it for death benefit focused products. So we really don't show disbursements for the most part. Policy options, I would usually leave this level because, again, the design is we have a death benefit. We're trying to figure out how much premium to hit that death benefit and not have it grow, but just keep it consistent. That also keeps your cost of insurance down. So from here, what you'll see is that I don't need to add anything else to it. Question came up, is there a term to offer for 1 year or 3 years? What's the minimum short term? And from which company to whom this is offered, say for travelers. So what I would say is that if you wanted to look for the lowest duration of term, you would go back here and do the term UL quotes and illustrations, launch now. I think 10 is the lowest, maybe even 5. I think Assurity has a 5, but let me just double check. Yeah, 5 year. So that's the lowest you got is 5 years. On the other side, the health side, they may have something like that, but in regards to travelers coming to the US, then you have different requirements. If they're leaving the US, the carriers might not prefer that because, again, it becomes a foreign national situation. And if they don't come back, there's some other stuff. It just gets kind of hairy in regards to 1 or 3 years. So 5 is the lowest that the carriers will typically go. So other than that, we could probably take that one offline and talk about it. So here we're going to leave it level. I'm going to keep it annual, but this is where you do monthly. Now, Corebridge did something recent that I found surprising because normally around here you have the revised illustration. Well, they put it on the front here. So now if you need to revise your illustration, you check it there. And again, what we talked about last week, which I think is important to kind of reiterate, is when you have term insurance, you don't have to provide an illustration. You don't need a revised illustration either for term insurance because they're quotes. Here, these are permanent products, so you need illustrations because there's cash value, it's permanent, and things along that nature. There's a lot of variables to it. So that's why if you have a revised product, you need to check the revised on it so that updates the records and everything. So it's a pain in the keister, but when you have 1035s, they're never going to have what you illustrated initially be what you have on the back end. I've literally only gotten the closest I ever got with a 1035 was $100 off. And I think that's pretty amazing because the amount of dollars that are shifting between account values and things like that is pretty stellar. But anyway, I don't care if anyone else thinks that's dumb. I think it's amazing. But we're gonna nix riders for right now. We may talk about those towards the end. Reports, if you have people who want to see what the costs are, you can check the box there. Some people will include the reports, some people won't. And then you put your agent information in, and we would hit calculate. Now, it's pretty easy to just hit calculate on one. So much like what we did last week, I'm going to do again, and I'm going to add a few carriers here. I'm going to show you a few select carriers that often play well in the death benefit focus space, but also have you identify or see on your own inside Winflex some of the differences you'll see among the carriers and their names. So you'll see it's pretty easy here, protector, protection. I'm going to hit copy. So now I have two Corebridge products. I'm going to change the product in the top right hand corner. And I'm just going to bring in a few different carriers. But I'll show you here first. Columbus, they only have one product. Okay. So the Index Explorer Plus 2025. Anytime you have two products, but different years or dates, you pick the latest one unless you live in California, and that's probably why the earlier one is still there because it has to be approved in certain states. But Columbus has one product to rule them all. It's not really that good in the death benefit favored scenario. They're more of like a middle ground cash accumulation slash death benefit. So I'm going to move away from them for this scenario. You'll see, I'll pick Lincoln because they're pretty good from a death benefit focus perspective. But you'll see here Wealth Accelerate, Wealth Builder, Wealth Accumulate. Okay, so you're seeing a bunch of similar phrases. And then you have Wealth Preserve. So we're preserving assets, we're not accumulating, we're not building or accelerating, we're preserving. So wealth preserve is the one that you're going to want to use. So I'm going to see the between the two, 21323 is later than 51021. So I'm going to hit update client. And then you'll see they have their own little extracurriculars. WinFlex is not perfect. And so what I'm going to do here is say fix all errors, standard non-tobacco, fill resh 55. It all comes over, but you want to make sure you double check every column, every aspect of it. So solve for premium, $1 million face, pay the rest of my life, $1,000, age 121. Now, Lincoln has a thing here, so maintain base no lapse premium, maintain extended no lapse premium. These are governors to help people keep their policies active and keep them moving. So you might put extra premium in the solve category. So a lot of times what I'll do is I'll actually uncheck these, but that would also be as if I was looking for something like, say, not guaranteed, but paid to and last to age 100 or 105. So in this scenario, it doesn't really matter. But if you have a shorter pay with a shorter span of this $1 million versus the entire life of the contract, then I would take these riders off, but no issue having it here. Nothing disbursements, policy options, level once again, annual once again, and everything is the same. Accounts, it did move over the S&P 500, 6.56, so there is a difference in rate of return. That could mean something, that might not mean something. But then we have riders. If we wanted to add, they have their own living benefit rider. They call it the Lieber, Leabr, and they also have their own LTC rider or chronic illness rider. And there's the LTC rider. That's the Lieber. Anyway, so we got them. We'll add another. So I'll copy here, change product, and let us go down to. You can add Nationwide. Nationwide has their index protector and they also have their index accumulator. So we'll add the index protector, hit update client, and once again, fix errors. So I have nothing here, no issues. Solve for, solve. Target goal is cash value $1,000 by a target age of 120, 121. It's not a big difference between those 120 or 121. Policy options, they use a multi-point index strategy. This is again where I want to do apples to apples, so I do the S&P 500 annual point to point. And they have a, what is it, 6.45 rate of return. So again, when some people do these illustrations or index rates, they will try and play off the higher ones to get a better return to make the client pay less. But really what you're doing is you're sticking yourself in an awkward position later if these don't perform. So always remember, just try and stick between 5.5 to, say 6.5 rate of return is a solid place to be. Riders, we're not adding any, no additional reports. And last but not least, I'll add one more. I'll hit change product one last time, and I'll throw in Symmetra here with their protector IUL. Update client, fix all errors, check the accounts. We have 100% S&P 6.69. Solve for, solve, million, cash value, $1,000, 121. And it's always important just to double check. So now that I have my four, I'm going to hit select all up here, and I'm going to hit calculate on this side. If I do it on the other side, it's only going to give me the Symmetra calculation because I was on that last. So if you have multi-checks, you want to go to the top left and hit calculate. It'll bring them all in at the same time. So let these calculate. Course Partners Group always takes its sweet time. So we'll see who is the quote unquote winner. Once again, you have 6.32 rate of return, 6.6, I think, 6.45, and 6.69. So annual premium, Symmetra, Nationwide, Corebridge, Lincoln, 13.4, 13.5, 14, 14 and a half. Okay. So what does this tell us? Does it mean Symetra's the best? Does it mean Lincoln's the worst? Not really. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Why? Let's say, for example's sake, this client dipped, tobacco. Well, the other three before would actually be tobacco rating and they would be higher in cost, and Lincoln would be the best one. Let's say they want living benefits. The Value Plus Protector is the only one of these three that has all three living benefits built in. So Symmetra, they have a chronic illness rider inside their policy up to 500K, or 50% of the death benefit, whichever is less. So there is a built-in chronic illness rider in their product, but they do not have critical. So there's different, I guess you say different strokes for different folks. So if we look here and we open up this tab, we're going to go to the money page and see 6.69, but okay, sorry, I was looking at the wrong page. I was like, man, that lapses 1 year with zero return. You'll see in the worst case scenario, so 0% column, this policy will lapse at age 86. Is that a good deal or a bad deal? Anybody?
Eye of the beholder.
Eye of the beholder, eye of the tiger. Um, so, so when you look at this, when you look at the setup, the reason why it's good, yep, Jai, you say it's good. I agree. The reason why it's good is we have a hard time fighting against people who are big whole life believers. And again, there's nothing wrong with the whole life product. But if you go against a captive agent, say a New York Life guy, a Northwestern Mutual guy or gal, don't mean to be gender biased, they're going to say, Phil, look at this policy. Your policy lapses at age 86. You put all that money into that policy and it lapses at 86. Why would you do that? The problem with that statement is that in this scenario, we're talking about 0% and guaranteed charges from day one. And that'll last a total of 32 years. So if you could tell me the last time the stock market has done 32 years of consecutive zeros or negatives, I'll give you $1 million myself. Never happened. That's why I don't have $1 million. That's why it's so important to understand that because the fact of the matter is that you've only had three down years in a row one time, and that was the Great Depression. So when you think about what happens in these scenarios, you have to understand that they have to show this, they're required by law. However, you will have people who try and naysay because they're either trying to protect what they've already sold, or they're trying to get the client to see their eyes and what they're trying to sell versus what you're trying to propose. I actually ran into a situation where we had a client in New Jersey where we had Lincoln. They were the cheapest at the time. And the other person could not beat it. It was like 50% difference. And they were so mad that what they did is they actually confused the client. They kept trying to show different things to them and why they're better, that it created confusion. And eventually the client just didn't move their New York Life policy. So when you have to understand as you're showing illustrations to people, explaining the pitfalls because they're probably going to talk to someone else. They're probably going to get a second opinion. They're probably going to talk to their family about it. So you have to be ready for all the negatives that come up, all the naysays, and everything that goes along with it, and prepare them. I tell people all the time, people don't pay me to look pretty because I'm not. People pay me to tell them when to duck, when there are issues, when you are facing something, and how to overcome it. So, this is one of those situations. The 0% column is very important to understand. Statistically speaking, it's impossible to have this type of situation. Now, what I will say is so this goes all the way to 85. Let's take, for example's sake, Nationwide and look at them. Do, 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 do. Here we go. This is the guaranteed or the 0% column, and it lasts to 76. So it actually costs more, and it's only guaranteed to 76. Now we know that on the flip side, it thrives on the rate of return because the anticipated rate of return on a non-guaranteed side, 6.45, will last you all the way to maturity or 120 for them. Now, the interesting thing is that usually if you have a higher rate of return, having a 0% column, you would think that the guarantees would last less because you're projecting a higher rate of return. Symetra is 6.69, this is 6.45. So it's all different in the actuaries. Um, yeah, Jai, I agree with you. I'm personally not a Nationwide fan. I like their LTC hybrid products, but when it comes to the product itself, one, their returns don't look as appealing as others. I know ink sticks to paper is the conversation around returns, but I haven't really seen a huge value proposition for their products. And also, they don't really pay that well for the producer. So it's a double whammy, in my opinion. Um, so yeah, I'm not really a huge fan of Nationwides, but a lot of people know them because of their advertising. So maybe that's why they don't have to pay the agent as well. Talk about partners groups. So we're $600 per year difference. What does that get you? Living benefits, as we all talked about before, the living benefits. If someone feels they need the living benefit story, that's a win unto itself. But what you do have here, ROP. So, Mr. and Mrs. Client, if you felt like you wanted to cash out your policy at age 80, you can get all your money back guaranteed. Plus, you have living benefits. And this policy is guaranteed to 89. Once again, beauty in the eye of the beholder. A lot of times, what I do is I will show people two options, and it's usually Corebridge and Symetra. One without living benefits, one with living benefits. Yeah, Bobby.
So when you're pitching this, the idea is that it is consistent charge, consistent premium for a set number of years. The face value is the same. Some of them have return of premium at certain milestones,
Yep.
but sounds like all of the ones you've talked through have some version of living benefits that would apply during the lifetime.
Well, Nationwide does not unless I added their rider.
Okay.
Okay. Symetra does not have critical illness. So if I had a heart attack, but I can still perform 2 out of 6 activities of daily living, I cannot accelerate a living benefit with Symetra. It is strictly for chronic illness. And it's dollar for dollar reduction, so people do like that. Up to again 500K or 50% of the death benefit. That's built in. You can add a rider, a chronic illness rider to Symetra for the full death benefit. However, with Corebridge, it's the accelerated benefits. So you would get, say $1 million and you had a heart attack, they might offer you $600,000. They might offer you $200,000. But once again, you don't know what it is because it's a built-in rider and they're basing it on the assessment of your life. You
And
can add to all four of these long-term care slash critical illness or chronic illness riders if you wanted to.
okay.
But go ahead.
Are some of the, just real quick on some of those living benefits, aren't there state limitations too? Like some states won't let you get more than 25% or something like that? No.
No, the only limitations you have for the products, New York, the only carrier that has living benefits in New York is National Life Group. They were grandfathered in. And in California, they changed some of the definitions. So for QOL, instead of it saying massive heart attack or severe, it's heart attack. So they changed some of the lingo, but there are no limitations. The only place you'll have limitations would be on the chronic illness rider because of the IRS per diem. So right now the per diem is about $13,000 a month, give or take. So you can't go over that annual amount. And if you do, there's potential for taxation unless you have a really good CPA who can prove it for something like the QOL, where they might give you $400,000 for a chronic illness. Now you got to prove everything above, let's say 260, if I'm doing some math right. I don't think I am, but
You're getting
244, something
close.
like that.
Getting close.
Close enough
Um,
for government work.
and
So,
so different question is this kind of the new version of GUL? Like I know that they have
yes.
rebranded that. Okay.
Yes. So when you think about GUL, GUL is basically permanent term. So I can take the QOL product and I can take North American's Protection Builder products and I can give you a guarantee all the way to 100 if I wanted to. But the cool thing about that is you have cash value growth, so you have an exit strategy. You don't have that in GULs. You're typically paying less than you would a GUL because there is some cash value buffer to help the insurance company versus a GUL, which is just all secondary guarantees. And then really the interesting thing is that they actually pay people more commission on the death benefit focused IULs than they do GULs. So your client gets cash value in case they need it, a cheaper premium, similar guarantees, and you get paid more. So it's really killed the GUL in general. You only see like Columbus and a few other carriers, like maybe two other carriers that still have a GUL.
Okay.
It's just, yeah, like QOL has it, but if I flip this, for example's sake, to a GUL, it'll literally tell me, hey, you're gonna have your client pay more. Well, it used to. It used to have a little thing that came up. So if I did a guarantee to 121 and I hit max, and again, being a permanent term, there is an ROP to the GUL pricing, but it should be, knock on wood, more costly than the IUL. Yeah, $20,000.
And some of the GULs that I had seen, and I only sold one or two, but
Mhm.
they had them funding, let's just say through 85 or something, but they built up enough cash value in there that it would pay for the remainder of the time. Is that something similar? I see we're funding basically until end of life with this plan, right?
Yep. So what you'll see here is I'm going to do copy. So I'm going to copy all four of these. So I'm going to uncheck the first ones that I did. And here's a couple tricks that you can do. So solve for, if I change this years to pay premium, so let's say for example's sake, I changed it to year, and then I'm going to do 20 years. So that is 55 to 75.
Mhm.
Okay, these four are checked. So I can do something to these four. These four will stay the same. I'm going to right click here. I'm going to hit copy answer to check clients. So copy to all four. And then I'm going to right click here and copy that, which is the 20-year pay. So I'm going to check here to see. So some of them will change, some of them won't. Here I have to go in and manually change it. So year 20 nationwide. Solve for cash value, target goal, solve for premium. Theirs is going to be different too. 1 through 20, then 0. And Symmetra. Yep, they didn't do it either. So some of them will, some of them won't. That's why it's always important to double check.
That feels like a big fail, doesn't it?
I know, right? If I changed it to male to female, they would all switch no problem. But
Okay.
yeah, this one was an epic fail. So I'm gonna hit calculate here, and this would be a 20 pay versus an all pay, but you'll still have in the far right-hand column or the interest rates that they're showing, it'll go a million all the way to 121 or 120. But here we're only stopping pays. Now, when you talk about the differences between 10 pays, 20 pays, 5 pays, 30 pays, 20 seems to be the magic number in regards to a death benefit focused IUL because it's not too much more. It's going to be more, but it's not too much more. And you stop after 20 years. So, Mr. and Mrs. Client, how would you like to retire from your life insurance premiums earlier than you? And, you'll see here. So Symmetra, these are all the all pays. Now the short pays, I have to fix the Lincoln one, but it's the cheapest right now. But let's just say, and you'll see premium pay years 34, so I messed up somewhere on that, but 20, 20, and 20. Symetra 16,295, Nationwide 17,436, and Partners Group 17,473. So if I go back into Lincoln, see what I did wrong. Pay premium. Oh, now that's why. So if I take those off, because what they're doing is they're having those extended no lapse guarantees to keep it moving. So I uncheck those and it'll allow me to do only a 20 pay for Lincoln now. That's why, again, it gets kind of funky when you do some of these. So you'll see, okay, so Symetra is only a $3,000 more difference between an all pay and stopping after 20 years. Nationwide, again, is about a $3,000, seven, $4,000 difference, 17,473, $3,000 difference, 18, 14, $4,000 difference. So what you'll notice here, that's why I say like a 20 pay isn't that much more, I guess you'd say invasive on someone, but if I did a 10 pay, it'd be like $23,000.
That's
So
that's a massive amount of premium that you carved off there by adding just 3K more a year.
that's what I'm saying. So one, the beauty of compounding. So you have the benefit of getting less premium. The only way you would lose when it comes to an internal rate of return is if you died in the first 20 years. So, but in the grand scheme of things, it is a lot that you're saving in the long run. So if I look here. These are some of the trade-offs. So I stopped funding after 20 years, but now instead of 86, it's 84 because the company's not getting that continual premium in. So the guarantee lapses at 84 and not 86. So that's where you're going to have some trade-off from that standpoint. But on the other side, you'll see it still carries, and actually it hits corridor at 110. So those who are going to live to 110, God bless you. But yes, you can hit corridor. So that is the opportunity. Now, here's an interesting thing too, and I will share this because I think it's important. You will hear from prior organizations, from other people, that if the client doesn't do target funding or higher, then the policy is going to implode or whatever. Well, I'm showing you here 16,295. The target premium is 18,464. It still works. You know, the policy, even with zeros, is still working all the way to a male's average mortality is 79 to 82, and it's still there. So the thing is that as a producer, and I cringe when I see this, someone will do target in the first year, and then whatever the premium is after that. It looks so awkward, and it's hard for me to understand or explain to a client, oh yeah, do this, you know, and don't worry about it because you're gonna get the extra in year two. All the carriers have rolling targets. So that little extra splurge that you think you're gonna lose, you'll get paid in year two. If it works for the client, it should work for you. And this should work pretty simple. Now, some people will just simply go in here and just put in target as the funding option. To me, I wouldn't do that because if I can, again, if I can give someone a cost-efficient premium, then I'll try my best to find that. Now, the only other variable that I would say, it could, and we'll stick with the 20 pay line because, like I said, in a lot of scenarios, the 20 pay makes a lot of sense for death benefit focus. But let's say if we want to keep it all simple, we want to have everyone on the same playing field. So 632, I'm going to drop that down to 6%. Okay, so high cap, 6%. Lincoln, I'm going to go to their accounts and I'm going to drop it to 6%. Nationwide, policy options, drop it down to 6%. And Symetra, index accounts, 6%. Again, just different ways that you can you can kind of play around with the numbers and really understand that there is no right methodology to this, but when you lower the rate of return, you increase the opportunity for success. I'll put it that way. So if you can project a 6% rate of return across the board, now all of a sudden you have a different story. So if we look at premiums now, you'll see that the 20 pays here 18, 18, 18, 20. Not a huge disparity between the three, but the reasoning why these are more expensive now is you have less to compound on a rate of return of 6% versus 6.32 versus 6.69. And you'll see here that if the client is willing to pay let's say 5 grand more a year for a 20 pay with a 6% rate of return, now you're really locking in a stronger possibility. Like, for example's sake, the cap rate that QOL has on this is 10%. And is 10% achievable? Absolutely. 7% achievable? Absolutely. So you have that margin above what you're showing them from an expectation standpoint, and when you think about all the stories that Northwestern and New York Life talk about is, non-market correlated asset. Well, we're reducing this so low, it's really market proof at that standpoint too, because of in the situation, you're not needing as much from the market. But if the market does better, guess what? You have more cash value. You can borrow against it still because you can use it even in these scenarios. But on the flip side is it's going to stay there. So if I look at Symetra now at 18069 and I pan that out all the way, we have a 20 pay, but now we're putting more money into it. And now the policy goes back to that 85 frame because I'm putting more money into it, even though it's a short pay. With Corebridge, with the 18269, which if you'll see here now, with the rate of returns, they've actually flip-flopped, and Corebridge is actually now cheaper than Nationwide, even with the living benefits. We'll go in and we'll take a look here, and we'll see that the policy goes to 88. So you're seeing different values and different benefits from doing this. They still have the ROP, they still have all the living benefits, and there's just different ways. As we always say, there's plenty of ways to skin a cat. No offense to cat lovers. I hate cats, but so as you can see here, there's just different ways that you can design the solutions to ultimately come to what's best for the client. When we look at carriers in the death benefit focused space, the only one I didn't include here, that would be another player, would be North American, but they tend to be a little bit costly because, and it's funny, everyone's like, oh, well, they have a guaranteed 2% column. There's no 0% column. And it's like, well, the 2% column is not going to give you much of anything anyway because that means their fees are higher. They're giving you 2% to wash out part of the fees that they're putting into the contracts. So they end up being a little bit more costly on the death benefit focus side, but they do have living benefits and you can dial a guarantee like you can do with the QOL product. So if someone is yearning for a guarantee to 100, I'll probably show QOL and I'll show North American on the protection builder side and see which one plays from there. Um, any questions on this? Again, the idea here from this side is most of the time people are trying to find a premium for a death benefit on the death benefit focus side. So that's why I want to spend the majority of the time on. But wanted to see if anybody had any questions. No questions?
I've got a tool question, so I don't want to take it off topic though.
Oh, I'm okay with that. Are you talking about the band or are you talking about
I'm
uh
never talking about the band, just to be clear. Never, never. Um,
Andy?
with all the amazing things that Winflex seems to be able to do, can you illustrate loans coming in and out of the cash value through like multiple carriers, like you've been doing here with the death benefit and premium?
Absolutely. So if we did that, so kind of going back, and I'll just pick a couple. So the Maxicune product, so we're doing income design, right?
Hmm.
So if I had a 40-year-old preferred Tennessee, and we're going to solve for the face amount, we know the premium, minimum face, no mech, and let's just say 20,000 a year for 15 years, not 54, 1 5 0. Okay. Index strategy, 100 disbursements. What I'll do here is I'll hit the little calendar. I like to change it to age for disbursements. So let's say we're going to do the typical 65 to 89. It'll actually show up as 66 to 90 on the illustration, but I clicked on solve for max. So I have that here. Policy options, I'm going to do increasing for 20 years and
15.
then 15, thank you. And then level after that.
And
So
real quick, you chose 100% in the S&P. Is that because every carrier has S&P versus like 30, 30, 30, the blending?
a couple reasons. I often find that the volatility controlled index accounts don't really perform the way they're supposed to.
Hmm.
So what I've done is I've really shifted a lot to either 100% S&P, or if some carriers like Symetra has NASDAQ, I'll show NASDAQ. Or what I did for my boys is I did 60, 20, and 20 because sometimes volatility control indexes can work and I don't want to miss out on it. But for the most part, I like to do everything in the S&P. And if people want to change, we
Because
can have
we
that
there was
conversation.
there's this conference that I went to. Oh God, I think it's called the Great Collaboration, and they had a speaker there who'd been in the industry for 200 years, and he did a whole presentation on how you blend and how you do a third, a third, a third, or 25 across the board. And I was just
Yeah.
wondering if that was a Winflex tool or that's just a preference.
So it's funny you say that because when I worked at the same company that guy works at,
Hmm.
they were pitching 100% MLSB at the time, and I was saying do 33, 33, 34
Yep.
to help your clients. And then all of a sudden I leave and now the tune changes. But I'm not bitter. Uh, they also took my ILIT presentation that I helped someone with to make a big sale, and now all of a sudden it's a story that they're throwing around to everybody. I'm like, I should be charged royalties, or I should
That's
be getting
it.
royalties for this crap? It's like forward thinking screws you if you're the first person to think it. And I,
Yep.
I talk about my good old times when I was at Circuit City, and Best Buy is the same thing, but just Shiny Penny came after, did everything that Circuit City did wrong, and did it right. And, so I'm going to stop giving away good ideas and just hold them. Hold them.
That's not who you are.
I
So
know.
so the
That
one of the benefits of doing the S&P is that everybody has an S&P. The other benefit
it's 90 years
is just
old.
kind of yeah, got it.
It's been around. Um, so yeah, you do the same thing, you hit the copy and then change product. So we'll just do Symmetra and we'll do their Ascent 3.0. Update client. It'll ask for a couple things to change. So fix that. And index accounts. So they have NASDAQ, which again, the reason why they do that, it's the higher of the two regulars. So I do 50-50 for them because I
Okay.
want NASDAQ, right? Then what I'll do is I'll add, all right, see you, Nana. Then the last one I'll do is I'll just add, we'll put in, I'll put in Lincoln again. So we'll do the wealth accumulate. No rhyme or reason why I'm picking them. Probably easier to illustrate them. So minimum 15 years, disbursements. So 20. This is the annoying part about them. They only have year for their disbursements. They don't put age. So it can
Mm.
be a pain in the keister. 1 to 15, level, all things kosher, select all, calculate. And here what you'll see is that if you did it right, the face amounts should be pretty close to each other. If you did it wrong, one will be like really big and then the others will be like meh. So I'm assuming that for this face amount, we're probably gonna be in like the 200,000 range. I'm assuming, guessing. Come on. All right. 300,000 range. So I did it right. 355, 42, 47. So you hit illustration, lerps ahoy. So we got the lerp doing its thing. 82. Then you got Lincoln, 66. Then you got Symmetra, which should be way more competitive than 66. 84, 83, 461.
Okay.
So if I did NASDAQ 100%, it would probably beat out the S&P from Corebridge. But once again, beauty is in the eye of the beholder.
And you can make them all 6% if you wanted to, and all those things.
Monkey
Okay.
around with it. Yep.
And what about like early access loan and repayment? Can you do that? I assume you can pretty much do everything from Winflex for all these. Okay.
Pretty much, yeah. So if you want to do something like their PDA, so like Symmetra, you would want to go on the Symmetra site and do it through there. You can do a PDA. I've done them before for some cases. So yes, you can do that. You'll want to access the carrier software for stuff like that. But I can
Okay.
always help with that. So that's not a big deal.
Cool. No, I
Um,
was thinking like people that want to buy real estate, like you get the money in there, pull it out, pay it back over 5 years, do it again.
Yep, you can definitely do that. So what you would do is you'd want to find the solve for the least amount of face to take the amount of premium that they can put in.
Hmm.
And then you have to then manually put it in. So you'd have to change the face to 363 because if you do a minimum face and you try and take money out while you're putting money in, it won't allow you to do that. So you have to manually put the face amount in and then you can start playing with it. So we can always run through that together.
Cool.
All right. Well, we're at the top of the hour, pretty much. So, as always, I appreciate the opportunity to serve. You will see all of this on the YouTube channel here at Valor Financial, where we have videos galore and more to come. So, appreciate everybody for sticking around and have a great weekend if we don't talk. Thank you all and talk to you later.
Bye.